Okay, so welcome to Bloom's first Bloomer webinar of 2026. That's no problem, Rachel. I'm really pleased to introduce Jane, who first did an excellent webinar for us, which you could catch up on demand later on back in the summer. And she's back here today. Jane is a trainer, speaker, and mentor and consultant who specializes in working with charities and charities professionals who want to do things differently and to get better results. And it's all about living the life of their dreams and making a big impact in the world. Back in 2018, Jane left her secure head of events role and set up as a freelancer and knows exactly how it feels after having that pivotal moment that made her realize that she could never have the freedom that she desired whilst working for someone else. Since then, she's worked with hundreds of fundraisers and dozens of charities through one-to-one mentoring schemes, and we're really, really pleased to welcome her here today to give us a training session to make sure that we can go through those steps to get the freelancing business that we dream of. I'm going to hand over to you, Jane.
Amazing. Thank you. What a lovely intro, Anna. Right, I'm going to start sharing my screen and hopefully this all works fine. But maybe you could just give me a little thumbs up if you can see my screen and you can see me and it's all good. Excellent. Before we start, I'd love to just get a kind of sense of what energy levels are like. We're obviously the first proper week back. So maybe you could do a 10 for firing on all cylinders, feeling really amazing, and 1, you've literally just rolled out of bed, you're not really with it, or somewhere in between. So just in the chat, give me like your scores on the doors. Be good just to get a sense of where energy levels are. Let's have a quick look at those. Oh, nice. We've got some 7s. Very good. Okay, 5. Nothing too low though, is there? No, nice. I'm not sure my chat's not really working properly, so I can't see. Oh, we got a couple of 9s. Very good. Very good. Nice. Yeah, I'd probably say I'm about an 8. I'm actually feeling pretty chipper for January. Quite good to be back working. So thank you for having me. Thank you for joining. This is going to be about 30 minutes, a little bit less now. So I'm going to be keeping things fairly top line. We're not going to have time to go into tons and tons of detail. If you've got a question, feel free to stick it in the chat. Alexandra and Anna will keep an eye on that. Or you can just come off mute and ask a question. But I'm always open to a DM in LinkedIn as well. And Anna will share that if we're not already linked in. So if anything comes up in today's session that you want to talk about a bit more, feel free to reach out afterwards. And today's session is all about creating a freelance business that you're obsessed with. So I'm going to teach you 4 ways to get really clear on your offer so that you can attract more of the perfect clients and enjoy that flexible, flowy business that you've always dreamed of. Okay, it'd be really helpful as well if you have a pen and paper handy, because I am going to go through a couple of little interactive bits and bobs as well that you might want to scribble down some answers. Or if you've just got a document open on your computer, that works too. Okay, so how often, if you've been doing this for a little while, obviously you might have a slightly different answer if you've only just started freelancing, but how often do you say yes to working with clients that you know aren't totally right for you? You know, you might get into kind of a week into like a 3-month project and kind of slightly wish it was done or feel like, you know, that kind of great, I've got work, but it's not really what I want to be doing. You maybe take on a project out of fear because something is better than nothing, or anything is better than nothing. Now, why does any of this matter? Well, I don't believe that you went to all the risk of leaving 9 to 5 to do work that really drains you. And freelancing is absolutely wonderful. Obviously, I would say that I'm a big advocate of freelancing. You're in the driving seat, so you are in control. You are master of your own destiny. And yet we often still get stuck in situations that feel no better than the 9 to 5 that we have left behind. And what's all that about, really? You know, I feel like sometimes freelancing can feel a little bit risky, and if we're not like creating it in a way, it really intentionally, that kind of works for us, why would we sort of take those risks? Hopefully some of that resonates, and this is what we're going to look at today. We're going to identify what energizes you versus what drains you, create a filter that you can kind of filter all of your clients through. So you make sure that you're saying yes to the ones that really are perfect fit for you. Define your boundaries that will protect your energy, and price for the lifestyle that you want to live. Now, I often work with clients and freelancers who have taken that leap, but then their day-to-day isn't feeling very different from what they were doing before. So I want to just create some ideas for you and some exercises for you that will hopefully help you build a business and grow your business that you're really in love with and that feels really joyful. Okay, so what energizes you versus what drains you? I find from experience that a lot of freelancers don't necessarily think about this, and perhaps don't do this consciously. And that kind of can be seen through sort of taking whatever gigs come up, and then kind of wonder why we don't feel like really energized or aligned. This energy audit will really sort of reveal that you can choose, and it shows you kind of exactly what you can choose as well. So it's the fountains, not the drains. You might have heard of that before, you know, what fills you up rather than what drains you. So the questions to kind of ask yourself, like, what work do you love? Like, what do you find easy? And the way that I do this is that I think about a time where I lost all sense of time and space. You know, when you're completely in flow, where time has just completely whizzed by, you were so absorbed in what you were doing that you totally lost track of time. And before you knew it, 3 hours had passed, you thought it was like 20 minutes. So can you think of a time where that has happened? Maybe you get that feeling really often, which is wonderful. But if you haven't had it for a little while, just cast your mind back to a time where perhaps you were doing something, working with a client, or maybe when you were in-house, that just felt really flowy and easy. Feel free to pop it in the chat if you want, or just jot it down. For me personally, my moment like this that I had recently was last November. I was at an in-person retreat that I'd co-created, was co-hosting, and I was just completely and utterly absorbed. I was so in the moment that even though it was a 3-day, 2-night event, which should have, you know, on paper looked really tiring and sort of quite draining, I felt so energized. I had so much energy, really, really just utterly absorbed in what I was doing. You know, the people I was there with were just really high vibe and wonderful, and threw themselves into all the exercises we were doing, felt vulnerable, you know, with being vulnerable and open. So what is your version of that? And if you don't think you've experienced that yet, I want you to give yourself permission to kind of dream, you know, get really clear on it, because that can be your compass. And when you're clear on what that is, then suddenly sort of creating your freelance business becomes a little bit easier, because you can start really playing to your strengths and the work that's really fully into your zone of genius, if you like. So I'm going to give you a couple of minutes. I want you to think about 3 things that energized you in your work in the past, I don't know, 6 months maybe, or months if it's more recent. And then 3 things that really drained you. I'm just going to give you a couple of minutes to think about that now. And it can be anything, okay? So it can be tasks, activities, types of client, types of project, work conditions. So I'm just going to go quiet for a few minutes while you have a little think. Is that clear? Is everyone happy with that? Any questions, just pop them in the chat. if anyone wants to share, it'd be nice to get maybe one share. Either type it in the chat, or just come off mute. That's great news, Jenny. Okay, so Alexander Fountain, pitching, meeting interesting people, running amazing charities, happy clients, what drains, bugs, admin, online conferences. Yeah, I found being patronized about my experience draining. I can imagine. That sounds draining. One of the things that energizes me, especially now as a freelancer, face to face, brilliant. Energizing is delivering training. Great. I mean, look at all the sort of variety here as well. So what's going to be energizing for you may not be for somebody else. It might be quite the opposite. So really getting sort of clear on what it is that you want will really help influence the kind of gigs and the type of work. And even if you, you know, I find that you can kind of start suggesting these things to clients. So if it's really, really key, it's a really important criteria that you have that face-to-face, that is written into the contract, that is part of the project or freelance work that you take forward. Strategizing, energizing, having my first invoice. Yes, I totally agree with you, Rachel. Felt very real. Just feels different as well, doesn't it? Getting that first invoice, or any invoice paid, I find it really feels different. Strategizing, brainstorming. Lovely, brilliant. And you know, you can carry on asking yourself these questions. Like, there's a lot, give yourself some time to really sort of think about it. It can start to really just help clarify things for you and sort of see where you might be slightly off track. Okay, so step 2. I remember thinking at the beginning of my freelance career that any clients were good, you know, but I soon found out that there was a cost to not being kind of clear about that. So overworking, you know, unsuitable clients can often be harder work. They require more from you. They might not respect your time or expertise. So how are you going to identify who your kind of perfect fit clients are, and maybe spot those red flags before you sign on the dotted line? Now, your goal here is to get a really detailed picture of who your ideal client is and who they're not. We're not talking about everyone. We don't want everyone. Like, you would never have enough hours in the day. You know, you want your marketing, your promotion, and the people that you're talking to be that kind of 1%. You know, this isn't really about appealing to everyone. So the more specific you can be, the better, the better. And I know that that might sound counterintuitive, but it really will help attract the right clients to you if you're really specific about who it is that you work for and the value of the work that you do. So I support charity freelancers and consultants to make more money and work fewer hours. Really specific. It's not all freelancers. I don't want all freelancers. I want the ones who've worked in charity, who want more freedom, flexibility, finances, and flow. So I've got really, really specific about that. So you're starting to create your small but mighty tribe. So spend a minute now just jotting down who your ideal client is and what their behaviors are. And if you haven't ever worked with a perfect client, or you've never had a really great experience of that, you can begin with what you don't want. You know, you can start from the opposite side of the coin, if you like. So think about maybe how they communicate, what type of projects, how they treat you, what does success look like for them. And the more specific you can be, as I said, the easier it will be to attract more of them. So yeah, I'll go quiet for a minute just while you have a think about that. And the useful thing about doing this is that it can kind of create your checklist, if you like, of non-negotiables. So, you know, maybe for you, that's that you don't take projects on that are over 3 months in duration. Maybe you quite like just working very short-term contracts. Maybe it's that you want much longer projects. Maybe you're only interested in projects over a certain value. Maybe you need that constant meetup, that in-person meetups. You need to go and work in an office space with other people, particular causes, particular sizes. And then every new approach that you get, you can almost kind of filter it through that criteria. So when I took the decision to go all in on kind of supporting freelancers build their businesses, I had to say no to a lot of work that I'd been doing previously in the event fundraising space. And that was scary, because if I said no to them, you know, and nothing else came along, that felt really bum squeaky, right? I had to say no to a lot of big chunky kind of projects. But if I hadn't done that, I wouldn't be doing what I really love now. So saying no to ones that don't fit can open doors to other things, if that kind of makes sense. Okay, so step 3, defining boundaries that protect your energy. Why do freelancers struggle with boundaries? Well, I think there's several reasons, but one is that fear of losing income. Every client feels precious. You know, if I'm demanding or I don't agree to everything that they want, they might not pay me. I might not get repeat business. You know, may not be able to pay my bills. There can also be those blurred lines between professional and personal. So often we're working from home. Maybe clients have your phone number. You know, there may not be any kind of physical separation between you and your work. And having your own business does feel really personal. I mean, I know when I started out, it felt like I birthed a new child. Felt very personal. There's that people pleasing as well. This is especially prevalent with women, but we bring our kind of 9 to 5 mindset into our freelance businesses, and we think that we can only be rewarded by being really accommodating and available all the time. And actually saying no or pushing back can feel risky. But as I said at the start, you know, we didn't go through all the trouble of leaving a secure role if we're just going to recreate the kind of same always on, always available, people pleasing identity that will lead to burnout and resentment. So the 3 essential boundaries that I have found are so important, and kind of most things will fall into that. Be time, so your working hours, your response times, your project timelines, getting really clear on that. The scope, so what's included and what's not included in the work that you're doing. And communication, how and when you're available. And when you're really clear on what your boundaries are, they can become like those non-negotiable requirements. They can be built into your proposals, they can be built into your contracts. So, you know, not working before 10 a.m., you know, making that clear to your client at the start, that just becomes the way it is then. In my experience, nobody's ever quibbled that for me. I do my school drop-offs with my daughter in the morning. I go for a swim, I come back home. And because I've just always done that, that's just the way it is. And the same with picking my daughter up. You know, I'll finish at 3. Sometimes I'll come back online again at 4 when I'm back home. Sometimes I don't. So really getting clear on what that looks like. That won't be the case always, because when she goes off to secondary school, I won't be doing those school drop-offs anymore. So things can change again. Payment deadlines, that's another one to get really kind of clear on, like, what are your payment deadlines? Ensure your invoices and contracts stipulate that, and draw your client's attention to it at the start. Maybe you're not willing to travel or do in-person meetings. Maybe you want everything to be remote. I have a dog who can't be left for long periods of time at home, so that limits me. Or I have to really think forwards, you know, plan ahead when I'm going to be in town. So yeah, these things can shift and change as your business evolves, but getting kind of clear on what that is for you will definitely save you time and energy in the future. And then step 4, price for the lifestyle you want to live. So reverse engineer your pricing. This is a big topic, and as Anna mentioned, I have done a webinar on this before for Bloom, so you can always go back and have a look at the money one. But really getting clear on kind of what type of lifestyle you live how much you need to earn and how many projects you can handle while maintaining your energy. So it might be that you could just fill your whole diary with work. You could be working 5 days a week and generating plenty of income, but you have absolutely no time to kind of enjoy that, and you're just work, is that what you want? I don't know, maybe it is. So you just need to get really clear on what that looks like for you. For a lot of freelancers, they want more balance, they want more life around the work. So really thinking about what you need to earn, how much you need to earn, and then you can sort of start to reverse engineer it. I'd really encourage you to stop pricing based on what you think clients will pay. I speak to a lot of freelancers who start there. It's a very small charity, they can't afford very much. It's like you need to start thinking about value-based pricing. So like, what value are you bringing to that organization? I know what my outgoings are, personal and professional, and therefore I understand what income I need to hit each month, and my work is engineered to kind of fit that. And I know that if I have a quiet month, which does happen, I'm okay because I've got enough put aside, or I know that there is more coming the following month. So that's the way that I have kind of worked out my income goals and know where I need to be setting my fees. But I also have a stretch income goal and a give goal, which really motivate me as well. So there's the kind of what is needed, and then also the kind of desirable. And more money allows me to give generously to causes and businesses that I believe in, to pay for lovely holidays, experiences for my family, to not work school holidays, to invest in my development. So have a think. When did you last give yourself a pay rise? We've talked before in this group, and Alexander and Anna and I were just talking before we went live about women undervaluing their expertise. So one really good, simple tactic that I suggest people maybe have a think about is take what your desired full-time employed salary would be. So say when you're working in-house, you were on 45, 50 grand a year, let's say 50 grand. If you divide that by 100, that's 500. That could be your starting point for a day rate. But you're not selling a day of your time. You're selling your 10, your 20, your 15, your 30 years experience, specialist experience, and a transformational result. I really want to get that clear. You're not selling a day of your time, okay? I'm just aware of the time, so I'm going to move on. So here's a quick recap. What energizes you? Do that little audit, have a think about that, create that clear filter for your perfect fit clients, define boundaries that protect your energy, and then price for the lifestyle that you want. And I want to just quickly finish up by talking about, if any of this is like really sort of piqued your interest and you're like, oh, this is interesting, I've never really thought about my work in this way. This is very top line, as I said at the start, but what I have a course where we go into a lot of this in a lot more detail. A lot of this is taken from that course, and it's called the Charity Freelancing Course. I know it's a really novel name. And this is the things that we kind of cover in that. So the art of client attraction, how to become a business owner, there's loads of essential resources that in there. We have one-to-one business clarity sessions, supportive community, and we do a lot of stuff on money mindset as well. There's bonuses in there. They're worth over £1,200, but you can get started from just 277 if you sign up before the end of tomorrow. So there's a bit of an early bird going on. Anna will share the URL with you. Is that not moving on? And also there's a little QR code there. So if you're interested, you can click your phone on that and go to the website, and it's also there, the URL on the bottom. And I've got a couple of minutes for any questions or any chat that I missed, or any feedback, reflections.
Thank you for that, Jane. I found that really just helpful and helped push my energy levels up to push myself a bit further this year as well. So thank you.
Amazing. Was there anything in particular that kind of hit home more than?
It was, yeah, like thinking about my ideal clients and what energized me. I've just finished my first year of freelancing, and I've definitely worked with some draining clients. So it was like really good to actually reflect on who I need to be pushing myself to this year.
Brilliant. Great. Thank you for sharing.
Do you have any other questions? I did spot that it says one of the comments talks about getting rid of other clients. I wonder if there's an art to ending well as well. I think sometimes there could be fear wrapped up in you've got these clients that are draining you, and how do you wrap this up and end it well? And I'm not sure there's 2 minutes can cover that, but yeah.
Yeah, well, it's tricky, isn't it? 'Cause I guess this is kind of a two-pronged attack. One would be thinking about your next client, using that as a lesson in what you want to be putting into your contracts. So I would always suggest that in a contract that you have the control of that rather than using the charities. And then you can actually put a clause in there that says we'll review this in 4 weeks' time, 8 weeks' time, or whatever, and have those kind of check-ins so that it's not just this kind of ongoing thing that you're perhaps. And also that that works for them too, like it works in both ways, but having that opportunity, I can't remember exactly what the wording is that I use in mine, but yeah, there's a way that you can kind of come to a mutual agreement to end it if it's so that would be something that I would suggest. If you're already in that, I mean, I think it's just about communication, isn't it? And about just sort of having to say, perhaps if you're wanting to end well, other things have come up, other projects have come up that I wasn't expecting, or I've had a change in, I don't know, lifestyle circumstances or whatever that might be. Yeah, I do think it is difficult, and I completely relate because I had to say no to some stuff and it felt really awkward. So I've been there. But honestly, the weight that was lifted when I did get out of that agreement, it was like, wow. And I just had so much more energy for other stuff then as well. I think that's sometimes what we forget, that there is a whole world out there for opportunity. But when we're like this and it's all really head down, it can be difficult to spot that. Yeah.
Agree. I can see Jenny's asked a question about how to attract your ideal client, but we're heading towards kind of the half-hour point. So I'm sure if Jenny connects with you on LinkedIn, maybe happy to discuss that with her.
Yeah, absolutely. And we do go into that. I'm not just a bit of a segue, but we do go into that a lot on the course. And I'd be happy to sort of run another session at some point. But yeah, that is a big thing, is getting really sort of clear on who those are and how you get more of them.
Great. So I can see also Rachel's popped her link to LinkedIn in the chat. They're keen to connect with other freelancers. And as well, do please connect with Alexander and Jane. I'm going to wrap up the session. I thought it was really good, and I think it's really helpful, and it's given you half an hour headspace this morning just to think about at the start of 2026, how are you going to get to this freelance career that you're obsessed with? And some things that I've taken away from today that I hadn't really thought about is the energy audit. I'm going to be making sure that I probably do that on a monthly basis and just reviewing, what's in the drain and what's coming out of that fountain. I loved the idea of the zone of genius as well, thinking about how you could hone down and get into that. And then finally, that small but mighty tribe. I feel like if I go through those things, I'm going to have this tribe behind me. And yeah, as Jane said, her course covers many of these points and it gives you the time and headspace, because I think that's one of the other things, just making sure that you make this time and carve it out for yourself. It's all well and good doing projects for other people, but making sure that you are developing yourself as a professional too. So I'm going to sign off with a massive thank you for Jane. I thought it was an excellent session. There's a link there as well to the money session that we ran in the summer, and that will be coming to your inboxes along with the recording from today, both today and tomorrow. So thank you for joining us and being a group of brilliant bloomers. It's been excellent to